Hello and welcome to the Constitution video quiz. I'm your host, Constance Adams. We're about to embark on a journey through the U.S. Constitution, and then some of my friends will test the extent of your knowledge with a super series of quick quiz questions. So listen closely, because all the answers to the questions are included in our presentation. All right then, pay attention now. Here goes. Back in 1786, the United States consisted of 13 states, loosely bound by the Articles of Confederation. Each state governed its own matters separately. A group of state representatives served as the National Congress, but when they had to settle matters between themselves or solve problems on a national level, they had difficulty agreeing on solutions. This left the young nation weak and vulnerable. The central government had no power to build a military for national defense. In 1786, Alexander Hamilton called a meeting in Annapolis, Maryland, to resolve trade problems among the states, but representatives from only 5 states showed up. So the members of the Annapolis Convention called on Congress and the individual states to meet in Philadelphia in 1787 to amend the current Articles of Confederation. Before the delegates could convene, however, an important event encouraged wider interest in government reform. State governments had been charging high taxes on farms. If owners couldn't pay, the courts would imprison the debtors and sell the farms for the taxes owed. Daniel Shays led 600 Massachusetts farmers in a rebellion against the state Supreme Court. To stop the foreclosures, they threw judges out of their courts and freed debtors from jails. Shays' rebellion signaled a need for stronger direction and a fair representation of citizens in government. State leaders feared this event would encourage people to take matters into their own hands, and order would give way to anarchy. It was time to organize a strong central government to unite the states. 74 delegates were appointed to the convention in Philadelphia, but only 55 actually attended. The sessions began on May 25, 1787, at the Pennsylvania State House. Leaders in Rhode Island refused to participate. They insisted on remaining a completely independent state. The participating delegates unanimously voted George Washington to preside over the Constitutional Convention. Attendees included such notable figures as Benjamin Franklin, Alexander Hamilton, and James Madison. Madison became a leading member of the convention and took notes of the historical event. Because of his contributions, he is known as the Father of the Constitution. Edmund Randolph of Virginia proposed a government with 3 branches: legislative, executive, and judicial. Each branch would have a responsibility to check the others. Does this sound familiar? Most agreed with the 3 branches, but a major debate about the structure of the legislative branch arose between small and large states. The larger states liked the Virginia plan, where representatives would be elected by a popular vote, but the smaller states argued that the large states would control the national legislature. Instead, they proposed the New Jersey plan, with all states having an equal number of representatives. Finally, the delegates reached the Great Compromise, also known as the Connecticut Compromise. They decided to have 2 houses in the legislature. Population would determine the number of state representatives in the House, each state electing their own. In the second House, or Senate, each state would have equal representation, or 2 members. Other major disputes pitted the North against the South. Because their population was smaller, the South feared the North states would dominate foreign trade treaties at the national level. So the Southern states demanded a 2/3 majority be required in the Senate to ratify treaties. The North and South also disagreed on the slavery issue. One compromise prohibited Congress from regulating foreign slave trade until 1808. Another allowed Southern states to count 3/5 of the slave population toward representation in the House, even though slaves were not allowed to vote. This helped to even out the representation in Congress. With these issues finally decided, the delegates turned to drafting the Constitution. Gouverneur Morris wrote the final draft of the Constitution. On September 17, 1787, 39 delegates signed the new Constitution and sent it to the Congress of the Confederation. The Congress had to gain the states' approval. According to the Constitution, 9 states had to ratify it in order to begin the new government. On December 7, 1787, Delaware became the first state to ratify. Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Georgia, and Connecticut followed suit within a month. Massachusetts ratified on the grounds that a Bill of Rights would be added. Soon after, Maryland and South Carolina also ratified, and on June 21, 1788, New Hampshire became the 9th state to ratify the Constitution. It was official, but 2 very important states were still opposed, Virginia and New York. To help convince New Yorkers to approve the Constitution, Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, and James Madison wrote essays entitled the Federalist Papers. In the 85 essays, they defended the need for a strong national government and discussed the weaknesses in the Articles of Confederation. Their opponents, such as Elbridge Gerry, Patrick Henry, Richard Henry Lee, and George Mason, became known as the Anti-Federalists. They believed the new Constitution gave Congress and the President too much power and authority. Eventually, the Federalists influenced the opposition to change their minds. Virginia and New York ratified later that summer. North Carolina and Rhode Island would not ratify until the delegates put in a Bill of Rights. Several states that had already ratified the Constitution agreed. James Madison and others sorted through the many suggestions and proposed 12 amendments. 10 were approved and added to the Constitution as the Bill of Rights. Many felt very strongly about protecting the rights of individual citizens from a powerful government. The First Amendment grants citizens the freedoms of religion, speech, assembly, petition, and the press. The right to keep and bear arms is stated in the second. The fourth protects against unreasonable search and seizure. The right to life, liberty, and property is the fifth, and the eighth prohibits cruel and unusual punishments. With the Bill of Rights in place, the other states approved the Constitution, and a new era in the United States of America was born. And so begins our adventure. It's time for my friends to join in the fun and quiz you on what you've just heard. So get your pencils and paper ready. Here we go.
It's quiz time.
Okay, team. Looks like you have a pretty good idea of the strike zone. Now let's see how you do with this question.
Question 1. Why were the Articles of Confederation replaced? A. The country was economically stable. B. The states had no power. Or C. The Union needed a stronger central government.
All right, great job. Write down those answers. Let's get ready for some grounders. There you go, there you go.
Hello, fellow sleuths. I've got a hot tip that we might find the next question here. Look over there.
Question 2. What caused Shays' Rebellion? A. High taxes and farm foreclosures. B. Constitutional Convention. Or C. Disputes over state borders.
Be sure to mark your answers down, and I'll see you later.
Today we're on the lookout for the next question. Now it likes to surprise people, so keep your eyes and ears open.
Question 3. Where was the Constitutional Convention held? A. Annapolis, Maryland. B. Washington, D.C. Or C. The Pennsylvania State House.
Boy, that was a sneaky one. How'd you do? Now be sure to keep note of your answers. Well, back to the hunt.
Where should I go from here? Rock climbing takes more than just muscle. Use your brain on this next question.
Question 4. Which state did not send delegates to the Constitutional Convention? A. New York, B. Rhode Island, or C. Delaware?
Way to go! Write down your answer and continue to move the right way.
Check out what's cooking with this question.
Question 5. Who is known as the father of the Constitution? A. George Washington, B. Benjamin Franklin, or C. James Madison?
Now write down an answer, boil for 5 minutes, and I'll stir up another one for you.
All right, let's stop, drop, and roll your way to this next question.
Question 6. Which plan did the large states prefer? A. The Virginia Plan, which was popular vote. B. The New Jersey Plan, which was equal representation. Or C. The California Plan, which was expansion.
Great job. Now remember that phrase and write down your answer.
Howdy, y'all. Could you wrangle up the correct answer to this question for me?
Question 7. True or false? Federalists worked to preserve the original Articles of Confederation.
All righty. Hope that worked for you. Write down your answer, 'cause it's time for me to head on out to lasso practice.
Hi there. Why don't you reel in the answer to this next question?
Question 8. Complete this sentence. The Great Compromise called for population to determine representation in the House, A, and in the Senate, B, and 2/3 representation in the Senate, or C, and equal representation in the Senate.
Great job. Write your answer down and get your line ready for the next question.
Come, it's time to rehearse again. I know, but I demand perfection. And for you, it's time to answer this.
Question 9. Name the 3 branches of government. A. Legislative, executive, and judicial. B. Federal, state, and local. Or C. President, cabinet, and judges.
Well, did you write down your answer? Great. But we need to get back to the scene. Tom, Brad, Julia, get in your places. And action!
For healthy teeth, you need to floss every day. Now try to answer this question.
Question 10. True or false? The Bill of Rights consists of the first 10 amendments to the Constitution.
Well, you're all done here. All we need to do now is write your answers down, and we'll have you rinse.
People have called the U.S. Constitution a living document. What do they mean? Well, the Constitution has the ability to change along with the needs of the American people. Voters and our legislature can change the Constitution through the amendment process. The framers of the Constitution anticipated the country would grow and its needs would change. The document they created had to grow along with it. In order to amend the Constitution, 2/3 of the members of both houses of Congress need to vote for the proposal. Also, 3/4 of the state legislatures are required to ratify or approve of any proposed amendment. Basically, an amendment needs overwhelming support in order to be added to the Constitution. But amendments are not the only part of the Constitution. There is the preamble, which describes the purpose of the document. It begins with those famous words, "We the people." 7 articles outline the basic rules of our government. Article 1 organizes the legislative branch. This group is composed of a House of Representatives and a Senate. It also includes the powers granted to the Congress and the powers forbidden to Congress. Article 2 discusses the executive branch, or the presidency. It explains how the president will be elected. Other sections highlight the powers the president has. For example, the ability to make treaties, grant pardons, and be commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Article 3 establishes the judicial branch. It explains the powers of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is the highest court in the U.S. That means they have the final say on any case. Article 4 talks about state relations. It also includes a phrase guaranteeing every state in the Union a Republican form of government and protection of each state from invasion. I mentioned earlier that the Constitution can be amended with 2/3 approval from both houses of Congress and 3/4 of the state's approval. Article 5 reviews the amendment process in more detail. Article 6 contains some general provisions. One of the most important states that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and that representatives and the President must take an official oath before taking office. Finally, Article 7 mentions how many states are needed for ratification. Along with the 7 articles, there are currently 27 amendments in the Constitution. Amendments 1 through 10 are known as the Bill of Rights. Throughout U.S. history, we've had some events that have led to the creation of other amendments. For instance, the Civil War. The war was fought for various reasons. When it was over, one of the results was that the slaves were set free. Congress made it official with the 13th Amendment, abolishing slavery in the United States. Now, African Americans were considered equal citizens. Not quite. They couldn't vote. The right to vote is one of the greatest powers we have in the United States. The ability to have our choices, our opinions, our voices heard through our vote is vital to our democracy. The 15th Amendment was adopted to give voting rights to all races. Great! So everyone could vote, right? Not exactly. Voting in the U.S. was limited to males only. That changed with the ratification of the 19th Amendment in 1920, allowing the vote for women. Finally, women had a voice in our government. With the passing of the 19th Amendment, all races, women and men, could vote. Well, almost. Prior to 1971, only people 21 years or older could vote. The event that initiated the change in the voting age was the Vietnam War. College students held massive protests of this war. Most of their peers, the soldiers fighting the war, were drafted at age 18. Back in the U.S., the students argued, if we're old enough to fight, we're old enough to vote. The 26th Amendment reduced the voting age from 21 years to 18 years. This gave younger people a right to participate in the political process and a voice in government affairs. The amendment process is fascinating, isn't it? They even have a way to stop an amendment from being used. All they have to do is write another one. That happened when Amendment 21 repealed the 18th Amendment. During the late 1800s and early 1900s, many people believed alcohol destroyed the moral fiber of society. Pressure from various groups, like the Prohibition Party and the Women's Christian Temperance Union, moved Congress to enact the 18th Amendment. This policy was known as Prohibition because it prohibited the manufacture, sale, or transportation of intoxicating liquors. Interestingly enough, Americans didn't stop drinking. Smuggling and bootlegging were rampant, and speakeasies, or hidden bars, were available if you knew where to look. Basically, the 18th Amendment did not work, so the Prohibition Amendment was repealed in 1933 with the 21st Amendment. The Constitution, it's such a powerful document. It has the power to affect everything, even the number of terms granted to a president. The man who inspired the 22nd Amendment was none other than Franklin Delano Roosevelt, our 32nd president. He held the office longer than anyone had, or anyone will, as a matter of fact. He was president for 4 terms, 13 years. After his death in 1945, Congress thought it would be in the country's best interest to restrict a president to 2 terms. They didn't want any one person to dominate the office of the presidency and increase the power of the executive branch. So, the 22nd Amendment was enacted, limiting presidential terms to 2. So, our Constitution, with a preamble, 7 articles, and 27 amendments, has stood the test of time and helped shape our government and nation. Now it's time once again for my friends to quiz you on what you've just heard. I hope you've been paying attention. Here we go.
It's quiz time.
I've got all the ingredients ready for a great question.
Question 11. What process is used to change the Constitution? A. Electoral process. B. Amendment process. Or C. Defendant process.
This meal will be magnifique. Mwah. Make sure you write your answer down while I mix it up.
Yippee-ki-yay! Time for another knee-slapping question. Try this one out.
Question 12. What percentage is needed in both houses of Congress to amend the Constitution? A. 3/4, B. 1/2, or C. 2/3?
Get your pens and pencils a moving. It's time for me to mosey on out.
Do the scene with feeling. Like this. I want you to stay. Why can't you stay? Life is so much better when you are near. See? Like that. Now, you try answering this question while we are still rehearsing.
Question 13. How many articles are in the Constitution? A. 1, B. 7, or C. 27?
And cut! Oh, brilliant! Print it. Great job, everyone. Well, how did you do? Were you as perfect as my actors? Now make sure you have your answer written down. We're off to celebrate the end of production.
Out! Out! You gotta be crazy! You get ready for the next question. I'm gonna get this umpire some glasses.
Question 14. Which branch includes the Supreme Court? A. Legislative, B. Judicial, or C. Executive?
What? Ejected? Ha! You're doing better than I am if you write down your answers.
In my line of work, you have to depend on tips from your trusty informants. Mine told me that the next question should be coming our way anytime.
Question 15. Why is the Constitution called a living document? A. It can be amended as needed. B. Congress rewrites it every year. Or C. It is tattooed on the President.
My informant came through again. Let's see if you have the information. Write down your answers and we'll see you later.
Get your net ready. Here comes the next question.
Question 16. After the Civil War, the 15th Amendment made it illegal to deny any citizen A. the right to speak freely, B. the right to vote, or C. the right to be president.
Did you get it? I didn't. Write down your answer, and I gotta go catch that fish.
Free climbing is exhausting. While I take a breather, answer this.
Question 17. What event inspired the 26th Amendment, which reduced the voting age to 18 years? A. World War II, B. Prohibition, or C. the Vietnam War?
Well, how did you do? Write down your answer, and we'll move on to the next question. See ya!
Okay, open up. I think he has a question stuck back there. Let's take a look.
Question 18. What was prohibited in the 18th Amendment? A. Women's right to vote, B. the sale of alcoholic beverages, or C. the sale of automobiles?
Doesn't that feel better now? Write down your answer so that doesn't get stuck.
You're not going to believe what I just found. The most incredible question was right here on the top of this rock.
Question 19. Which president inspired the need for a term limit? A. Franklin Roosevelt, B. Benjamin Franklin, or C. Theodore Roosevelt?
What do you think? Write down your answers so we can go hunting for more questions.
Keeping the truck in pristine condition is always important. Wait a minute, what's the question doing in here?
Question 20. What does Article 4 guarantee every state? A. Unlimited funds for education, B. A Republican form of government, or C. The right to reverse Supreme Court decisions?
Now we're all done. Just write down your answer and the truck will be finished.
I hope you've enjoyed this journey through the Constitution. Next time you think about voicing your opinion, or reading a newspaper, or even exercising that very powerful right to vote, remember that it's all possible due to your Constitution. Thanks for joining me and my friends. Bye!
Question 1. C. The Articles of Confederation were replaced because the Union needed a stronger central government. Question 2. A. High taxes and farm foreclosures caused Shays' Rebellion. Question 3. C. The Constitutional Convention was held at the Pennsylvania State House. Question 4. B. Rhode Island did not send delegates to the Constitutional Convention. Question 5. C. James Madison is known as the father of the Constitution. Question 6. A. The larger states preferred the Virginia plan because electing representatives by popular vote would give them an advantage. Question 7. False. Federalists actually worked to convince the states to approve the new Constitution. Question 8. C. The Great Compromise called for state population to determine representation in the House and equal representation in the Senate. Question 9. A. The three branches of government are legislative, executive, and judicial. Question 10. True. The Bill of Rights consists of the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. Question 11. B. The amendment process is used to change the Constitution. Question 12. C. 2/3 majority in both houses of Congress is needed to amend the Constitution, and 3/4 of the states have to ratify. Question 13. B. There are 7 articles in the Constitution. Question 14. B. The judicial branch includes the Supreme Court. Question 15. A. The Constitution is called a living document because it can be amended as needed. Question 16. B. The 15th Amendment made it illegal to deny any citizen the right to vote. Question 17. C. The Vietnam War inspired the 26th Amendment. Question 18. B. The 18th Amendment prohibited the sale of alcoholic beverages. Question 19. A. Franklin Roosevelt inspired the need for a term limit. Question 20. B. Article 4 guarantees every state a Republican form of government.
For more excellent videos, call us toll-free at 1-800-262-8837 or visit our website at www.teachersvideo.com.